I used to believe that one day something would happen that would finally explain everything. A moment so clear and undeniable that I wouldn't have to question myself anymore. A moment that would justify all the waiting. But nothing like that ever came. Instead, my life changed in ways that were almost invisible. Small compromises, quiet decisions, days that felt harmless on their own, but heavy when they started stacking up. I didn't become unhappy overnight. I became comfortable enough to stop asking myself difficult questions. I learned how to function, how to respond instead of react, how to keep things stable even when they felt empty. From the outside, it looked like peace. On the inside, it felt like slowly forgetting who I was supposed to become. I stayed in situations that didn't hurt enough to escape. I accepted explanations that didn't make sense, just to avoid conflict. I lowered my expectations, then lowered them again, until disappointment felt normal. I told myself this was adulthood, that this was maturity, that everyone feels this way eventually. But deep down, I knew the difference between growing up and giving up. I just didn't want to admit which one I was doing. So I postponed everything. My goals, my feelings, my instincts. I told myself I would come back to them when things were calmer, safer, more certain. But life doesn't create perfect conditions. It just keeps moving. And the longer I waited, the harder it became to recognize the person I was waiting to be. People think fear is loud, that it shows itself through panic or chaos. But real fear is quiet. It sounds reasonable. It sounds patient. It sounds like logic. It says, now isn't the right time. It says, be grateful for what you have. It says, you can live like this. And you can. That's the problem. You can survive almost anything if you don't expect more. You can adjust to emptiness until it feels familiar, until it feels safe. I wasn't afraid of losing people. I was afraid of losing the version of myself that had learned how to cope. Afraid that if I chose differently, I would fail. Afraid that if I reached for more, I would expose how unsatisfied I really was. Afraid that the life I imagined might require courage I wasn't sure I had. So I stayed quiet. I stayed still. I stayed small. This isn't a story about betrayal or heartbreak. It's a story about self-neglect, about ignoring the voice that keeps reminding you that something is missing. Some truths don't shock you when you hear them. They wear you down slowly. They wait until you're tired enough to stop arguing with them. I didn't change when I understood what was wrong. I changed when I could no longer pretend it didn't matter. I learned that late. And if this feels uncomfortably familiar, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been patient with a life that no longer fits you. I was too. But staying cost me parts of myself I can't recover. And that taught me something I won't forget. Comfort is not peace, and surviving is not the same as living.